Eddie Kingston, the world, the internet, social media, they're all talking about Eddie Kingston after his appearance last night on AEW Dynamite. Spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen it already, but Eddie Kingston was the one to answer Cody's TNT Championship Open Challenge last night. We knew going into it that it was going to be a mystery, and we'd heard rumors that it wasn't going to be anyone on the AEW roster currently. It was going to be an independent wrestler. I think Tony Khan had teased it was one of the top independent wrestlers in the world. So obviously given the non-compete clauses in the people that were released by WWE back in April, their clauses was expiring and has expired now in their contract. A lot of people were guessing and questioning and speculating about who the person could be to answer Cody's open challenge, but it wasn't any ex-WWE superstar. In fact, it was an NWA wrestler, as far as we're aware at the moment. The last time he was seen on a major platform, of course, was NWA, but it was Eddie Kingston. Now, where does this all come from? Where's the history involved in this? What's going on with Eddie Kingston? Well, for those not in the know, back at ICW No Holds Barred Volume 3, Deathmatch Drive-In 2, which was back on July 6th, Eddie Kingston made Eddie Edwards... I'm thinking so much Impact at the moment. Eddie Kingston cut a promo, and it got a lot of people's attention, essentially saying on Cody, and there was a lot being spoken about it on social media, and he said everything that about the American Nightmare, everything about Cody, everything about Cody and AEW, everything about what Cody stands for and what Cody's done in AEW was fake. And he dared Cody Rhodes to put his TNT championship on the line against Eddie Kingston, a quote grown man, and not quote effing children, end quote. Obviously, Cody Rhodes so far, the people he's defended the TNT championship against at that period of time, I think he'd just done Cody. He'd done the defense against Jake Hager, as far as I'm aware, on July 6th, I think so. But he's defended it against the likes of Jungle Boy, Mark Quinn, Ricky Starks, younger up-and-coming superstars. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's the right thing to do for the TNT Championship. I think it should be this open challenge element. It's a great way to elevate new talent, but it's an interesting prospect and an interesting way to look at it, what Eddie Kingston was saying. So the Mad King himself showed up last night on AEW Dynamite. He got his wish and was revealed to be the latest challenger for the TNT Championship on last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. In fact, it kicked off the show. We didn't have, many grand pyro or anything like that. We had the AEW Dynamite intro, straight in ring. Cody and Arn Anderson are already in the ring. They don't have any entrance. Justin Roberts announces them that they're the TNT Championship Open Challenge, and instead of getting a full, music and entrance, it's Eddie Kingston. He's straight on the mic, and the NWA wrestler didn't wait very long to make his presence felt. I love this. So he's cutting his promo. It's a great promo, and it's absolute fire, and it's just great. He's got obviously that New York accent. He's got that real distinct voice, Eddie Kingston, which is always great. And halfway through his promo, he stares right at Arn Anderson, who's obviously jaw-jacking him back, and threatens to gouge Arn Anderson's eyes out before the match even began. Now, of course, if he was in WWE, that's a way to win a match nowadays, apparently, especially at the horror show at Extreme Rules. I joke, of course, but it was a heck of an entertaining promo, and it was great. It felt real. Eddie Kingston, if you're not familiar with his work, when he cuts promos, when he talks... All right, put it this way. This would be a better way for me to describe it. Eddie Kingston could probably never work in WWE. His character, of course, he's a wrestler. He could do what he wants. He could, you could work in WWE. Not that you would want to at the moment, but in terms of his character and his promo style, it wouldn't work in WWE because his promo style is off the cuff. It's not scripted. It's real. It's reality based. It's him talking. I don't think any writer in the world, even me or you listen to this video or any of the EVPs at AEW, nobody could script Eddie Kingston because his promos are so real and it's just him talking. It's him talking. It's him spitting fire. It's nobody else could come up with the words that are in his head, or nobody else can write the words the way that he talks or the way that he presents them when he cuts promos. I don't think anyone could do that. So he cut an unbelievable promo, a typical Eddie Kingston great promo, And then the match began. He challenged Cody that, we're not just going to have a normal match, make it no disqualification. I've spoken to Tony Khan. Tony Khan said, if you want to make it no disqualification, do it. And he obviously PO'd Cody enough that Cody accepted straight away. Right, okay, fine. We'll make it a no disqualification match. So the match began pretty quickly, and it was physical. It was absolute physical. And once the action did begin, the two stars, they went back and forth. They went for it. Eddie Kingston went straight to his hardcore roots as he went under the ring, grabbed a bag, and nobody knew what the bag was. On commentary, they were speculating that because of Eddie Kingston's relationship with Santana and Ortiz, it could be, I can't remember what they're called, but those like sort of sacks with the baseballs in, that kind of thing. But it was not. There was something else in this mystery bag, and it indeed was thumbtacks. We saw a thumbtack spot on AEW Dynamite. I can't remember the last time I saw a thumbtack spot. It must be, John Moxley versus Kenny Omega from Full Gear last year. I think it's the last time we've seen a thumbtack spot in AEW. And both him and Cody, to his credit, Cody took the first bump on the thumbtacks. Eddie Kingston took one later on, but they took big bumps, and they used weapons, and they just beat the hell out of each other. Now Cody went on to retain the TNT Championship match. He defeated Eddie Kingston, forcing him to tap out after locking in the figure 4 leg lock. I love, and this is so pro wrestling, isn't it, that you can be thrown onto thumbtacks. That's not enough to beat you, but be put in that figure 4 leg lock, which hurts. By the way, the figure 4 leg lock is a legit hold. If you've ever play wrestled as a kid and put your sibling or your friends in like submission holds and all that sort of stuff, figure 4 leg lock hurts like how. So I don't blame Eddie Kingston for tapping out to that one, but it's always funny, isn't it? Just you can be like, your skin can be pierced by thumbtacks, and a figure 4 leg lock gets the job done. That's how great the move is. So a lot of people, rightfully so, we're talking about Eddie Kingston coming out of that match on Dynamite last night, and why wouldn't you? The match itself was great, it was fast-paced, but also I think the most impressive thing was the promo. That's the thing that stood out the most to me. The match was good, but the promo by Eddie Kingston was great, and that's what Eddie Kingston really is truly capable of. Now, as far as Eddie Kingston's status with AEW right now, we don't know. We really don't know. Will Eddie Kingston return to AEW? It's unknown at the moment, but a real positive thing for him and positive for AEW, I suppose, maybe not so positive for the NWA, is that Sign Eddie Kingston was a trending hashtag after the show. Also, Eddie Kingston, just the name Eddie Kingston was trending too. You had independent wrestlers, AJ Gray, Faye Jackson, I think even Mustafa Ali and some other names as well, some other big names have all come out this morning or after the show to campaign for the Mad King Eddie Kingston to be given an opportunity with AEW and be given a full-time shot with All Elite Wrestling. It was just great. It was really, really good. I speculated about who potentially the mystery opponent could be. Obviously, like I said, there was a lot of names that people were speculating about. Zack Ryder, Mike Bennett, Rusev. I don't think many people thought of Eddie Kingston, and it was a nice surprise. Eddie Kingston calls himself the last of a dying breed, and to me, that's exactly what he is. Does he look like your stereotypical professional wrestler, your modern-day pro wrestler, eating, trifecta meals and all of this sort of stuff, gym selfies and that? No, that ain't Eddie Kingston. If you're familiar with his work, if you're familiar with his character, that is nothing. You will never get anything like that by Eddie Kingston. He's got a very popular social media following because his Twitter game is great, because his promos are great. He tweets the exact same way that he talks. He talks real, he talks hard, and there aren't many people like that at the moment in pro wrestling. We talk about WWE's cookie cutter problem, right? Everyone in WWE, they're told to look the same, act the same, bump the same. Eric Young has even spoken about that. We'll do a video on that later today. But you have that kind of wrestler and that kind of, like I said, cookie cutter mentality at the moment in professional wrestling. And someone like Eddie Kingston, who has been around for the longest time. I think he made his debut in 2001, so he's a nearly 2-decade veteran at this point. There aren't many people like him. And if I was AEW, I'd look at his work last night. I would look at the reaction he got on social media, whether it was the trend of Sign Eddie Kingston or the fact that Eddie Kingston was trending, or so many guys on social media, so many wrestlers currently working, not even with the company, just independent wrestlers or even some with WWE, are saying, Sign Eddie Kingston, he's that good. That would turn my head. That would absolutely turn my head. Now, people are going to say, well, you can't just sign everyone that answers the open challenge, because so far that might be what happens, because you had Ricky Starks answer the open challenge, and then subsequently he was given a contract because of his performance there. Eddie Kingston might be the next person, but if this is what the open challenge also is, if it's also a bit of a recruitment drive of people getting an opportunity, if it works, they can stay. If it doesn't, they won't stay. Obviously, AEW has to be careful. I don't think... their roster's pretty stacked anyway and loaded for places. I've been quite vocal about saying about people that have left WWE recently, whether they should go to AEW or Impact Wrestling. A lot of the time I've said Impact Wrestling because I think the AEW roster is so stacked, and positions on the roster are very fine, and it's difficult to stand out there. But given the opportunity last night, Eddie Kingston certainly stood out. So if I was in charge in AEW right now, I'd be like, hell yeah, let's get Eddie Kingston in, if it's possible. He certainly lived up to the promise of calling himself the dying breed last night. I don't know about you. He walked through the curtain and he never looked back. He never looked back, and he just absolutely set the wrestling world on fire last night. He is one of the most recognizable people and most respected people on the independent scene for a long, long time. As I mentioned previously, is he the best wrestler in the world? No. But when you sign Eddie Kingston, when you book Eddie Kingston, you know what you're getting. He is top-notch level on the microphone. Again, that's why he wouldn't work in WWE, because nobody can script the way that Eddie Kingston should speak. Nobody, and just that's because not many people talk like Eddie Kingston. I'm sure there are many people. That's probably not right when I say that not many people talk like Eddie Kingston. Not many people talk like Eddie Kingston in the wrestling business. There are plenty of people that talk like Eddie Kingston in real life, and that's what's great about him, is that he's real. And you don't have that in professional wrestling. He adds that element of reality when he cuts a promo. So his in-ring work is fine. There's nothing wrong with his in-ring work. He's just better on the microphone. His in-ring work is exactly what it should be with that kind of character. When you see an Eddie Kingston promo, when you see how Eddie Kingston cuts a promo, how Eddie Kingston talks, he then incorporates in the ring. It's a combination of brawling, stiff shots, everything's very snug, and a bit of Japanese strong style in there. There's not saying that he can't work or anything like that, but it's the perfect way. If he spoke the way he talks and then went in and did, shooting star presses and all that, it wouldn't make any sense. And that's the good thing about Eddie Kingston, is he's got his character to a T, because it's him. There almost is no character there. It's Eddie Kingston. So as I mentioned, the fact that Eddie Kingston and Sign Eddie Kingston were trending on Twitter after the show, during the segment, after the segment, it was pretty damn good. He also made a quote, Eddie Kingston, after the match, that he was part of AEW's social media post, and I'll read that out here. It says, quote, "I have nothing else left in this life that I love doing. So whether AEW brings me back or not, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going until the wheels fall off, because I have nothing but this. I chose to have nothing but this. Cody, you were the better man tonight. I got no excuses, you were. But I'm not stopping. I'm going to learn and move forward. That's all I can do. Man, that's it. I'm going to walk away, man. I'll be back. I'll be back." End quote. Again, and like even me reading it out there, I can't do that. I can't do that justice. I'm not Eddie Kingston, but you can kind of imagine it in his voice, and the fact that he's saying that he'll be back. Some people are reading into that saying, "Wow, he said he's going to be back, so is AEW going to sign him?" I don't think at the moment AEW knows, but if we're going to look at recent history, Ricky Starks came in, did a great job, and he got a contract. It's probably slightly different with Eddie Kingston. As far as I'm aware, he still has a deal with the NWA. That can obviously change very, very quickly. The difference was, of course, with Ricky Starks, he wasn't under contract with anyone. His contract expired with NWA back in February of this year. At the time, he was the television champion. He dropped the title to outlandish Zicky Dice, who also is no longer with the NWA. But so when Ricky Starks came in, he wasn't under contract or anything like that, so it was easy for AEW to sign him. I don't know the situation with Eddie Kingston now. It's a very, very fluid situation and time when it comes to the National Wrestling Alliance, because let's face it, the NWA aren't doing anything at the moment. Obviously, last year and at the start of this year, they had NWA Power, which was their weekly show on YouTube, and it did very, very well. It was critically acclaimed. I enjoyed watching it. It was on every Tuesday at 6:05 p.m. on their YouTube channel, Eastern Time, of course. And it was great. It was really, really good. And it was a throwback style show. It was done in a studio audience. The storylines were good. It was only an hour long. The pacing was great. It was just a really, really good show. And then subsequently, like with everything, with the pandemic, it got shut down. NWA couldn't. It's not. We can't have mass gatherings at all, let alone in an enclosed, tight studio space, which is what the NWA were doing there. So it was impossible to tape NWA Power with an audience. And I mean, possibly they could go back to taping it without an audience, but subsequently things have happened since then as well, which we'll go into in a second. So the NWA Power shows haven't been happening. To combat this lack of content being uploaded to their YouTube channel and just this lack of content being pushed out by the National Wrestling Alliance, they then started doing a lot of more individual YouTube content with all of the wrestlers, and it felt like every wrestler had their own sort of show and its own sort of web show. So you had What's Causing Aldis, I think, was something that the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis did. I think you had like the Eli Drake show. Eli Drake was doing something on the NWA's YouTube channel. I think Dave Marquez was also doing something about like the history of the NWA on the YouTube channel. So they were uploading content quite regularly most days to the NWA YouTube channel. But then, of course, that all changed when the speaking out allegations and movement happened. One of the speaking out allegations was made by a female against the then NWA Vice President Dave Lagana. In response to this, Dave Lagana resigned and is no longer the NWA Vice President. He has since refuted the allegations and said that they didn't happen, and denies any form of misconduct or sexual misconduct with this woman, but decided to step down anyway from the company. And then subsequently, because of that, all the content stopped on the YouTube channel at all. So the NWA hasn't uploaded anything to their YouTube channel or hasn't done any new content in a very, very long time. On top of this, we heard rumours last week that the NWA was soon to shut down, and Billy Corgan, the president and owner of the NWA, was considering actually selling the company. This led to, I think it was a rumour actually that was started by Raven, because he's close with Billy Corgan, or he's friends with Billy Corgan, and he said that Billy Corgan was fed up with it. He grown quite disillusioned with it, and just was going to shut it down and sell it. Billy Corgan has since come out and said that that's not the case. The NWA isn't for sale. They're not going to sell it. The reason they haven't uploaded or created new content at the moment is because they only want to do so and create new content when they can find a way that's both satisfying for the fans but also safe for the employees that work for the NWA and safe for the fans also. So they're trying to figure that out at the moment, but they will be back essentially. So the NWA isn't going to close down or disappear or anything like that, which is good because it was a really enjoyable show that they had and a good show. But it was largely run by Dave Lagana, so that was his baby, that was his project, and him not there, it's difficult for all of that sort of stuff to do. We've also seen and heard rumours that obviously because of the pandemic and because of the lack of shows and the lack of income that the NWA has, there have been issues when it comes to people being offered new contracts, new deals, whether what they want to get out of their contract. As I mentioned, Ricky Stark's contract had already expired with the NWA back in February, but you had people like Zicky Dice, who was the NWA television champion. I guess the title is now vacant, but he was the NWA television champion at the time in which he was released. He decided to ask for his release, and the NWA granted his release from his contract. The NWA have been pretty open in saying to all of these people that have asked for their release, if you want to leave the company, if you want to go and try and go somewhere else, you can. We only want people in with the company right now that believe in our vision and believe in the NWA and want to be with the NWA. If you don't want to be here, this isn't going to be a Lucha Underground situation where you're held hostage due to your contract and you can't appear from anywhere else. Look, it's tough times at the moment, and there are only certain companies that are really running shows, so these wrestlers need to go where they need to go to make the money and pay their bills and provide for their family. So the NWA are doing well by that. Again, what's going on with Eddie Kingston in respect to that? I don't know. If Eddie Kingston did want out of his NWA contract, I'm assuming he could just ask and they would be pretty likely to give him his release. Is he still signed with the NWA? I don't know. I would speculate, and this is only speculation on my part, and that might be wrong of me, But the fact that he is appearing for AEW at the moment, or did appear for AEW last night, lends me to think that he either doesn't have a contract or he can get out of it very easily. And I think personally, after his performance last night, I think it's a matter of time before he does sign with All Elite Wrestling. And I do think he'd be a great addition to the roster and a fun addition to both AEW, Dynamite, and Dark. Obviously, he's got a history of Santana and Ortiz as part of the Inner Circle. Could he be part of the Inner Circle? Why not? Why not? I don't want to see it as an NWO style thing where you have 5 million members of it, but I think Eddie Kingston would be a fun addition. I think the way that he talks, the way that he acts is a fun contrast to Chris Jericho, of just the way over the top showbiz funny kind of thing, whereas Eddie Kingston's very dry. He can do a lot of humor though, but he's very dry. He's on the same vein as Santana and Ortiz, and I think that'd be really fun. And also you have to look at these guys, that these gimmicks don't last forever. Santana and Ortiz aren't going to be part of the Inner Circle forever. The Inner Circle isn't going to be a thing for forever. So having Eddie Kingston in with the company allows Santana and Ortiz options for when the Inner Circle does decide to break up, or they can do something with them, or it gives the Inner Circle, specifically Santana and Ortiz, something to do. So that's interesting. Of course, previously in the NWA, Eddie Kingston was part of a tag team with Homicide, who was managed by the Pope, of course, Elijah Burke, D'Angelo De Niro, whatever you want to call him. Do I think Homicide's going to come to AEW? I doubt it. I think if he went to anywhere that was outside the NWA right now, I think he'd be back to Impact Wrestling. He's got history there. He's a former X Division champion. So I don't think we're going to see Homicide join Eddie Kingston anytime soon. Like, as I mentioned, I think if there's going to be anyone that Eddie Kingston, in terms of an old tag team partner or familiar friend, he joins up with, I think that'll probably be Santana and Ortiz in AEW. So as far as should AEW sign him, it's a given, right? You've got to, if it's possible. I think they've got to. I think AEW's hands have been forced. People are going to say, oh, you jump into too rash decisions. You can't just be handing out contracts all the time. And that is true. You can't be handing out contracts all the time. We are in a pandemic. We are in financially difficult times as well. It's not as easy as if you've done a great job, here's a contract. What I will say is, though, that AEW is making a profit right now. With the last deal with TNT, they made a profit, so they're a profitable company. They're also backed by billionaires in the Khan family, so money, it's not a case of WCW money is an issue. I don't think they're as reckless with the money. But I think if they wanted to offer a contract, they absolutely could. And I personally think that they will. In terms of what he does going forward, I'd like to see him maybe have another match with Cody. My issue so far with these TNT Open Challenge matches, and look, I've really enjoyed them. I think they do really, really well to enhance Cody's appearance on the show. I think also it's given opportunities to see matches with guys that we probably wouldn't have seen. It's given the opportunities for people like Sonny Kiss to perform on a big stage, Jungle Boy, Mark Quinn. Originally, that was meant to be Ray Phoenix, which would have been a phenomenal match. The only thing I would probably have a critique about when it comes to the TNT Championship is I want to see more feuds and less just one-offs. The only feud that we've really seen for the TNT Championship so far since Cody won it was the match with Jake Hager heading into Fyter Fest, which just didn't really do it for me. I thought the match was slightly dull. I enjoyed the press conference element that they had to it. I thought that was fun. But I'm just a bit over having Jake Hager in these big matches. I think he's great in his role as the big heavy and the heater for the Inner Circle. But it's the same feeling when he faced Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. I got the same thing when he faced Cody for the TNT Championship. It just doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't excite me. But what I do want when it comes to Cody and the TNT Championship, I do want to see more feuds and have maybe an open challenge, but that leads to something a bit more. And I think Eddie Kingston would be a perfect chance for him. We don't know what Cody's plans are now we're heading into All Out. Of course, the next AEW pay-per-view and big event is All Out, and I'm sure Cody, look, he's one of the most important guys in the company, both in ring and outside of it. He's absolutely got his creative plans sealed and sorted, wherever they are. Look, we just don't know at the moment. But whatever that is, I maybe Eddie Kingston's changed that. I don't know. Do I think Eddie Kingston is going to face Cody at All Out? I doubt it. I just don't think that's the biggest match that AEW can do on their biggest show of the year. All Out is it's their WrestleMania. It's their biggest event that they're going to put on this year, and I don't think that Eddie Kingston versus Cody Rhodes will necessarily happen in that one. But what I do think is that they can have a nice feud on television for the next couple of weeks, as we're still quite a distance away from All Out. So I would like to see a rematch from Eddie Kingston against Cody. Does it have to be a no disqualification match? No, but I don't know if you can go from a gimmick like a no disqualification match right back into a singles match. That seems a bit backwards to me. I would like to see them raise the stakes even more, or heck, maybe even have something else. If you're going to have Eddie Kingston work his way to get back the TNT Championship opportunity, why not have, I don't know, you had a 6-man tag or something like that. You can have Cody and the Bucks go up against Santana, Ortiz, and Eddie Kingston, and then Eddie Kingston, I don't know, rolls up Cody, pins him in that match or something, and that's good enough to get a Cody Rhodes versus Eddie Kingston rematch, and then suddenly you're off to the races there for something quite exciting. As I mentioned, do I think the TNT Championship match are All Out? Because there will, of course, be one. Do I think that's going to be Cody versus Eddie Kingston? No. Do I think AEW will sign Eddie Kingston? I think they have to. I think it makes the most sense to me at this point. You've seen the groundswell of support for him on social media, whether it's from his peers or it's from the fans. It seems inevitable at this point. And will there be issues getting out of his NWA contract? At this point, I don't think so. He might not even have one at the moment. I'm sure we'll find out that also in the coming days. But it's a very interesting time for Eddie Kingston, and a really exciting time. I'm really glad to see him finally getting a big break on a big stage. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Eddie Kingston last night at AEW Dynamite? What are your thoughts on the Eddie Kingston versus Cody Rhodes match for the TNT Championship? Will we see Eddie Kingston again in AEW? Will Eddie Kingston be eventually signed by AEW? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond to all of your comments and interact with you guys. Really enjoy speaking with you guys in the comment section below. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and if you've enjoyed it so much that you want to share it with your friends, you can do that also. But most importantly, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. We're over 500 subscribers now, heading on our way to 600 subscribers on that long road to 1,000 subscribers. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll be doing a lot more watch-alongs and live streams. We did a couple of watch-alongs at the weekend for Extreme Rules and Slammiversary. Ideally, we want to be doing that for your Raws, your Impacts, your AEW Dynamites, SmackDowns, etc. So once we get to 1,000 subscribers, it's a lot easier to do that, and that is the plan for going forward. So the quicker we get to 1,000 subscribers, we can do some really fun and engaging content here on the channel, which I really enjoy. And if you already have subscribed to the channel and you're watching this video, just know that I really, really do appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that takes the time to go out the way to listen and watch and subscribe and like the video. It really does help us out a lot, and it's very, very humbling. So I really do appreciate all of your support. Likewise, if you want to follow us on social media, they're on the screen right now, the handles, and the links are in the description box below. It's at 365 Wrestle on Twitter and at Wrestle News 365 on Facebook and Instagram, so be sure to give us a like there as well. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.